Hi everyone, I'm Ruby from rubybrand888.com, and right now we're about to get into the vibe for June 2018. Things are moving around this month, and in particular it covers finances, being timely, inclusion, and being exacting. So attention to detail is kind of important as well. The other thing to note for is that a lot of what we're talking about today does apply to finances, but it is an overview, so it does apply to other things, whether it's scheduling of travel, building, buying a new house, all those kinds of things. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the money itself, it can be what the money's doing as well. So the first part we were looking at is being timely. Quite good it's coming up at the end of the financial year, so it kind of gives you an opportunity to set for the year ahead. We also want to look at pace and placement, think auspicious dates, syncing with lunar patterns, and also consider off-schedule expenses. So we shouldn't be losing money this month, but the flow of it coming in might be a little bit off pattern. So don't get caught short, don't overspend, and then you should be fine to balance it out as it shifts through the month. Next thing we're looking at is also inclusion, and when we're talking about inclusion, we're talking about including information that's up to date, and that can also include contacts, details of those contacts, are the numbers up to date, is the address up to date, is the name up to date, as well as keeping things relevant. Is the information you're supplying relevant? So it's about what's coming in, but also what you're sending out as well. And that plays on from last month as well. Allowing the continued release of what's not serving you is also a really wise decision this month. If it's not serving you, let it go. Or update it and redefine it. A good time for qualifying what you're doing, especially around business and financial planning. So if it's just for the home, what do you need it to cover? Are you looking at all the expenses? Have you left wiggle room in case something unexpected comes in? And then also in business, we're looking at leads, networks, events where you can grow your network, but also where you can gather information and in relation to growing your knowledge base and also your network, and a time for assessing what's worth including or whether or not to just tweak it or let it go completely. So it's very much centered around what's coming in, what you're sending out, and is it relevant, is it up to date, and is it worthwhile? Exacting relates to details and your bearings, your position on how it aligns or misaligns with being timely, and inclusion of details and keeping things up to date and relevant. Are you paying attention in the right areas? Are you looking at the right topics and the right people to feel that you're up to date? Because what we're trying to avoid is that feeling of being behind the ball all the time. So things are going to be moving throughout June. It's a fairly fluid month. Nothing too out of the ordinary, but the ordinary is moving around. So you want to have enough flexibility set up in your planning to adapt to that and be comfortable with it. The less panic and pressure, the better. With exacting, I also want to mention that it's important to pay attention to fine detail. It can be tiring to do it all the time, so be selective and timely in what you do it on and when you do it as well. So for June, we're working on an awareness and a strategy within what will serve you. Keep it light and agile, and with a focus on being timely with up-to-date inclusions and exacting details. It will pay to keep your attention open with specific disconnect times. So make sure that if you're very present during the week for work or for the kids, on the weekend have some time out. Make sure you give yourself that mental, physical and emotional moment to rest, detach and relax, and kind of rejuvenate yourself to then, when you're back in, being very present and able to handle the details or the movement. Everybody seems to have a lot of information coming at them. So the more you can manage that, the better. And that's what I'm talking about there with the disconnect and time out. And to the point where if you need to, schedule it. If you haven't got days or weeks at a time where you can do that, schedule a half day or schedule an hour massage. Make sure you get those increments in. Grounding is a really good way to do that. Walking barefoot, sitting at the beach. Look at something beautiful that's natural, that gets you away from the screen. So make sure you look after yourself in that respect. It also supports an open mindset for managing business and productivity, and also that applies in a domestic sense to making sure that you've got the energy to drive the kids to school, that the groceries are done so you don't need to run down the street when you're exhausted. Details, inclusion, and timeliness. So that's about it in a nutshell for June. Best of luck. Please hit subscribe. We'd love to have you following along and keeping up to date with what's coming for July as well. In the meantime, you can visit our new website, which is up and running, rubybrown888.com. Lovely chatting with you. Talk to you soon.